Hey guys, Moz here, and I guess I'm gonna jump right into it. Well, first off, I'm here in the park, hanging out with Cole. He's under the table. Cole, what are you doing? Hey, puppy. Anyways, I'm gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna explain the the different philosophies of dog training. Yeah. Methods. Excuse me, methods. I'll say methods. You got someone like I'll use Caesar, right? Caesar Milan. His he uses correctional based dog training. You know, like if a dog steps out of line, you hold a leash, check it by the neck, and that's more of a old school type deal training. And then you got who's an example? Let me think. Stillwell, she's a good one. Victoria Stillwell, she's positive reinforcement, right? And that's what most people nowadays are doing. But I think that's where a lot of dog trainers fails in both areas, right? If and it's mostly inexperienced, dog trainers. They'll go to a positive reinforcement certificate program or, be dog trainer, and then they'll use that and they think that method works for every dog. Well, not entirely, and I'll explain why. And then you got on the other side of the coin, right? You got someone like Milan's methods, right? They're correctional base, check by the neck, dog steps out of line, barks, jumps, right? You do that each time, and he goes and then he checks it, right? That too, if a dog trainer uses those techniques strictly, then they're going to fail. And I'll explain why each one will fail. But they work too, in a sense. And I'll explain why they don't work first. And I'll start with the old school kind of methods, right? Like checking by the neck, Milan's methods. Here's an example, right? You have a dog that is fearful. I go to the shelter, volunteer quite often, and I train dogs there. And if they're fearful for many reasons, either they're on the street, they were abused, you name it, they probably experience it. And if some of the people on animal control, they also train the dogs too. And they'll use the neck checking, right? They use choke chains and check the dog by the neck. Well, that doesn't always work, and here's why, right? If you have an overexcited dog, and you keep checking them by the neck, and they just don't get it, it's not going to work, right? Or if you have an over-fearful dog, right? People call it aggressive. If you come towards them and they bark, no, it's not aggression. They could just be fearful. I made a video explaining, body language, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out that video. Anyways, so if you check a fearful dog by the neck, often not, you just right off the bat, if you meet the dog, and you just, check it because it barked, it's not going to work. You're not going to get any progress, and it's just not going to happen. Now next, alright, on the other side of the coin, right? Positive reinforcement. You get a dog, let's say, like a red zone, right? That Caesar works with, right? And you're trying to positive reinforcement train him, right? And if you approach him and he starts barking, or let's say he's in a really, really up there that a novice dog trainer should not be even attempting, and you're gonna fail because a biscuit's not gonna stop him. It's not gonna keep Fluffy back from mauling your head off if you. I'm just exaggerating at that point, but you get the point, right? If a dog is a protectional type breed, you see it a lot in like Rottweilers, right? Those breeds where any dog can achieve it, any dog can experience it. But I'm just tossing that breed out there because I see it a lot in the shelter, and it's territorial, or what they call possessive aggression. If they are over something, it's going to be hard immediately to establish a base connection. It's possible, but it's going to be harder to. So I think I think if you have strictly one of the two methods and you just use just those, you know, you can succeed. But I'm thinking, you know, you're not gonna be there all the way. And I won't explain my method and why it's kind of different. I was watching, you know, I watched Caesar 911, Dog Whisper with Malone, and I'll notice a lot of people, you know, just read online and talk to other people too, and you know, they say it's abusive, you know, and I believe if you take the methods too far, it can become abusive, and it is abusive. But at the same time, I think over spoiling your dog and not really setting boundaries, which I see positive reinforcement can do, right? For example, if you don't wean off the treats, or if they listen only if you have treats, right? You know, that's setting yourself up for failure. And I think if either is done improperly or not correctly, then I think you will fail. Now, here's my method, and here's my take on, I guess, the two top popular methods. You know, I don't. Let me see. What are you doing, puppy? Yeah. He's pulling. But anyways, my method is you could say somewhere in the middle. You know, I don't check them by the neck. I don't do all that. What I do use though, and what I do is, if you listen to Malone talk, he talks about like energies, right? How dogs respond to different energies, different drives, and how he does that specifically to snap the brain out of it. Now that I understand, because a dog can experience different drives, and it's your job to snap them out of it if they get into that drive. But there are other ways to snap them out of it instead of checking them by the neck, and that's where the other side of the coin comes into hand. So I think if you adopt the philosophies that Malone uses, you know, don't use the techniques, just the philosophy itself of like the whole idea of energy and kind of not entirely pack mentality, because that encourages people to sometimes be violent with their dogs, which is not good and which is abusive. But if you just understand how dogs operate, you know, you understand how they work, how they think, how they go through different drives, right? And I showed you in a previous video, it's called Dog Training for Dummies. That video, it goes over, it talks about how a dog can switch, you know, different drives, which is what Malone talks about, which is also true. So I think if you adopt those philosophies, those ideals, and then use the actual methods of positive reinforcement, you will work, you know. That's what my method is. My method is, I adopted the philosophies, you could say, Malone uses, but techniques of positive reinforcement, if that makes sense. In other words, I understand how the dog operates, and I interpret how, you know, they interact with one another and the body language that they're expressing. And then if I want to stop them from doing something, you know, I'll use, you know, reinforcement. You know, you don't need to check them by the neck or tap them or any of that. You know, if you give them commands, like you should train them pre-hand, and you train based off that, you'll have better success. And I think that's hold on real quick. Cole, what are you doing? What are you doing, puppy? What are you trying on? What are you doing? Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. There you go. But so yeah, and I use that technique, you know, with, you know, understand how dogs work, you know, understand how they think, how they interpret things, how they see the world. You know, dogs at different ages, what they go through, what they think, and I think if you do that, you're gonna have 10 times better success. And then if you're to use just either of the methods, because with people with positive reinforcement, you know, they don't. I see it often, you know, that they do kind of understand the dog's body language, but they don't catch it. They focus mainly on well, no, I can't say that for all, but what I observe, right, is when the dog is overexcited, right, they get that little piece of frustration, but they try to hold it in, try to hold it back, and they stay persistent trying to do it, but then they don't entirely work. Well, that's because, you know, the dog isn't in the state of mind, right? It's not in the drive you want him in. He's probably in play drive, and you want him in food drive if you're teaching him a command, or you want him in a more serious state of mind, right? And that's where you need to understand the state of mind, understand the drives, like what they're thinking, what they're in that moment. A dog's not going to think 10 steps ahead entirely, they, I don't know, they could, but, most often not, that's not how it's going to work or what they're going to do. So, like, I'll use Cole for example. He, like this morning, right? He was playful, and I was trying to get him to sit. Don't need to check him by the neck, and don't repeat yourself saying sis. With positive reinforcement, you use luring. So I just take the treat, wave in front of his nose, that snaps him out of it, and then I'll say one of the basic commands. Watch me. That makes him instantly lock eye contact, and then you get him in tune. And I showed you in another video how to do that. I'll probably go over more command videos, but yeah. So this is I guess my take on the different philosophies of dog training, and what can help you, get the best success. My advice is learn how study the state of mind of the dog, interpret body language, and as far as the technique to use, best results are with positive reinforcement. That's how it works. That's how you're going to keep your connection with your dog. That's how, you don't need to get violent or check them by the neck, but keep the philosophies, like I said, that Milan focuses on, because he understands, he interprets the drives, right? He can read body language very well, which I compliment him on. That I do have to hand him, is that he can read body language far better than many other trainers can even come close to. So Milan does that very well. And I think for trainers or anyone in general, you're a pet owner, you want your dog to listen to you, but you don't want to go track down a trainer. Just I advise either getting the book or reading up on your breed of your dog, or if it's a mix, understand that, but also understand how dogs in general work. And that's the different praise, or the different drives. That's how, that's how they interact with each other, what they're saying through body language. And once you understand them, once you interpret what they're saying to you, then adopt the method. And the method is positive reinforcement. So I think if you use both, kind of, in a sense, they can coincide and complement each other if done correctly and if done right. So that's my take on it. Thanks for watching.